All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming back to another episode of Just One Question. You know who I am. I'm your host, Lion Flood. But before we begin, let's just do a little housekeeping and get this party started. Thank you all for joining once again and enjoy the show.
You're listening to Just One Question with your host, Lion Flood. This podcast is brought to you by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
There you have it. So I'm excited. I want to tell you about our guest who we have coming up today. Her name is Martha Hoy. She is more than just the actions I'm about to tell you about. She's a nurse. She started the Mother Martha Family Foundation. Try saying that 3 times fast. She's also a writer, a humanitarian. She has a passion to help improve the lives of children in her community and around the world. She has a new book that's coming up around about September the 26th. Keep an eye out for it. And she's going to tell you more about that as well. It's called Becoming Mother Martha. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to bring on our guests. And, we have just one question. Yes, we have her here. Give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Martha, so thankful for you to be here. I want to start off right away by you kind of sharing and telling us who you are and where you're at in the world right now and kind of a little bit about yourself so that people can get to know you.
Well, as you said, I'm a nurse and I'm a writer. And my book that's coming out at the end of September is called Becoming Mother Martha, and it's my life story about how I started out as a nurse in West Virginia, but became known as Mother Martha in Uganda, a country in East
Wow,
Africa.
that is so interesting. I can't wait till we dive into that because here we have someone just from the United States and then they go to Uganda. I picture it almost as one of those things where you have a dart and you just look at a map and you threw it and said, that's where I'm going at. So let's take that journey from how that started there, and then we'll come back to the book and delve into that more. So, how did you end up going that direction?
So, how I got connected to Uganda was I was in a car accident and I had 15 surgeries and I had a long recovery. And along the way, I started helping children after I recovered. And I met a young man named Jeffrey Magisha. He was an orphan living in an orphanage called Bulamu Children's Village in the capital city of Uganda. A friend of mine had adopted his brother and brought him to Minneapolis, Minnesota. So that is how I became connected to Uganda. So, what made me become very passionate about helping children was in 2018, my relationship became, well, it was, but it escalated and became very abusive. So, I had to run for my life from my home in West Virginia. I left my life behind, only taking a suitcase. When I did that, I didn't have anyone to turn to, I didn't have anywhere to go. But the children that I had helped in the orphanage saved my life. My sponsored child, that young man that I had met, named Jeffrey Magisha, as I said, his brother was brought here and adopted by my friend in Minneapolis. When I ran for my life, his brother took me in and kept me safe outside of Minneapolis.
Wow. So, within that, I mean, you go from a car wreck and then everything in you changes within your world. Because I know I was in a car wreck, and I don't compare mine to anyone else's, but like I had to learn to rewalk. I had 4 knee surgeries, and so like
Yeah.
mentally, it is, if no one has been there, you think it's just physical, but it's mental as well. So here you are going through something like that. Now you go to Uganda, get involved inside this orphanage and everything. Touch on that mental strength you had to draw from during that accident. Was there anything that you had to like recover, rehab, or anything?
Oh, sure. I made front page news. I always say that was my 15 minutes of fame. The accident made front page news. 3 people passed away in that
Ooh.
accident. So I understand what you're saying. I also had knee surgeries. My face was reconstructed. I had 15
Mm.
surgeries total after that car accident.
Wow.
So, I was in nursing school when this happened, and my goal was to finish nursing school. That was my dream. I always wanted to be a nurse. But what really helped turn it around, and you can read about this in my book, was I had a very wise mentor, and she came to my bedside. I was in my hospital bed, and I couldn't move. This is something that changed my life in an instant. I was a young lady, starting out in life, and then all of a sudden I'm in a hospital bed, and the only view of the world I had was the ceiling of my
Mm.
hospital bed. So my mentor came to me and she said, Martha, she was kind of a tough love kind of lady. And she said, I can see this going one of 2 ways. Either you're going to lay here and you're going to play the victim and you're never going to do anything with this, or you're going to get up and do something with it. So what she did was she sent me a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Now, if you've never read that book, it's a book written by a gentleman who survived concentration camp in World War II.
Wow.
And it's a story of his survival. And actually, this gentleman not only survived one of the worst concentration camps in World War II, he went on to help other people afterwards. So, I sat and read this book after I got out of the hospital. I'm sitting and I'm thinking, you know what? If Viktor Frankl can do this, I definitely have to get up and do something with this.
Yeah.
So, my goal was to graduate nursing school, and I did 2 years later, and I ended up being one of those people who I ended up being on the team at the same hospital of nurses that saved my life from the car accident.
Oh, that had to be profound. Like it's almost like a full circle that you came
Yeah.
back into that same place. And this is giving me shivers because when you're talking about that looking at the ceiling thing, I was there and I know the pain. I had to learn to rewalk like fully. If you ever saw the movie with someone walking through those 2 little things and they're holding onto it like the gymnastics, I had to
Yes.
learn to do that. And it was tough. So you just gave me some shivers there. When you're going through this process of going through all this, and even I know writers and authors and speakers say they have like a process they're going through. Tell me a little bit about, and the listeners, a little bit about that process, and then also tell us what is something that people, I would say, misunderstand about you the most.
Well, first of all, I think what people have misunderstood about me was I think they underestimated me.
Hmm.
I think, because during the recovery, I kept being told you're never going to do this, and you're never going to be a nurse, and you're never going to do this, and I just kept surprising people. So, as far as a writer, I really didn't set out to write this story. A friend of mine who had been in the writing business for a long time, and he said, Martha, you have to write this story. It's like the moon landing. It's a large number of people won't believe it happened, but it's one hell of a story. So, when I wrote it, I thought, he's right. So when I sat down and wrote it, I said I wanted to write it in such a way that the reader and I are sitting on the front porch together, and I'm just telling them my story, just like you came over. We're having some tea, we're drinking some coffee, and we're on the front porch, and I'm just telling you, how I became Mother Martha. And I set out to write it in a way that I wanted what I wanted people to get from it. You know, when I sat down, I was like, what do I want people to walk away from this book with? And I hope that people are inspired. I hope that people learn something. And also, I hope that people will open their hearts and minds to people from different places and in different cultures.
Man, that is so great because I've always wanted to write a book. I'm just like, I don't know where to start at. And then you kind of have that feeling of, well, at least for me, I'll speak for myself. I don't know if someone will read it. I don't know if, so that's held me back for a lot of time frame. And when I hear people like you speak about this, it gives me that like, hey, it's possible, right? You can do this. I love hearing about that. One of the things I was reading about, and I think I came across when I was looking into your books and everything, you're big into that community in Uganda, and I heard that there was like a million or a couple million orphans over there, and that's must be a disheartening thing when you're involved in it. I don't want to say, oh, I can't help everyone, but it's has to hurt a little bit, huh?
Sure, there are 2.5 million orphans in a country of 40 million people. There's political violence, there's, so many things going on. And the first time that I saw, a lot of these children are homeless. So think that you're 5 years old and your parents pass on and now you're on the streets by yourself.
Hmm.
So that's everyday reality for some of these children. Yes, it's sometimes very draining, but I became passionate about it because, if it wasn't for those children, I don't think I would be here.
Hmm.
If Jeffrey and Ivan wouldn't have taken me in outside of Minneapolis, I don't think that I would be here. So I'm very passionate about it because there's a need, but I'm also giving back.
Yeah, that's a great thing because we get to a point where I'd say this to my son all the time. No one, even someone who's a millionaire, they don't do it by themselves. It's a team. There's someone there to pick you up when you're feeling down. Maybe you feel like, hey, I can't push on. There's someone to give you advice, whatever. And I love hearing that. And you give back and give out to those people who've always and helped you out in that. Within this process of getting to your book, because I love talking about this, because I want people to go grab it, go take a look at it, and see what is one thing within that process that you did not expect going through the writing process, or did it evoke emotions, or did it evoke memories? What's something that you didn't expect through that process?
Well, it's very healing, to write about such things. And what I didn't expect was, I write about being a nurse during the pandemic of 2020. I was a nurse in Las Vegas during that time. And I didn't realize, what, traumas and things that I was still hanging on to from that time. And as I was writing, I kept having to take a break. I have to go walk. I have to go take a break. And then editors and they want you to have a deadline. Can you have this done by this time and this done by this time? And you're like, no, I have to go take a walk. I'm sorry. I'm remembering death all around me and everything. So that was something that was really surprising to me.
Gotcha. And yeah, I can only imagine. And when you're walking through that, other people aren't feeling what you're feeling and they want you, like you said, to get it done, get it done. But we're human. You know,
Right.
it's not directly like the movies where we lock ourselves in a basement and just us, the pencil, the pen, or the keyboard, typewriter. Those things hit you. And it's like you said, I got to take a walk. I just self care. I love that word now. I'm finding
Mm-hmm.
out about that. I know coming up, we were always, we got to do this. And like now, it's okay to tell someone, I need to take time for me, right? I need to take a break. For the listeners out there who are interested in learning more about you, where can they find you? Where can they find your information, your books, anything like that?
Well, on social media, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and my books are on Amazon and on Barnes and Noble.
Wow. I'm definitely going to Barnes and Noble now. I need to go check that out. It's right down the street from my house. So I'm excited about that. Is there anything you think that we've missed that I didn't cover that you feel you want to share for the viewers and the listeners out there?
Well, I think for me, when I wrote this book and I started sharing this story, is I wanted people to really understand it is not what happens to you. We all go through adversities, and nothing in life keeps us from going through adversities. Money, titles, fame, wealth, nothing keeps us from going through adversities. But, you know, what I found was that, everything can be taken from us, but how we choose to respond.
Mm,
Viktor Frankl had everything taken from him, even his name. I had everything taken from me. My life was reduced to a suitcase. But the one thing no one could take from us is how we chose to respond to those things.
very, very touching. You
And for
know,
me, it was about not, it was about, it's not about what happened to me, it's about what I became. And now, all these years later, my mentor that gave me that book has now passed on. But now I like to think that now she would be proud of what I did with all of it.
yeah, that's so great. And that was so touching in coming down here. And I got a comment from one of the viewers, and I just wanted to bring it up and see, but it kind of takes it, I guess, a little levity to it. Someone said, "What's a funny story you can share or tell about you that you'd like to share?" And I was like, "You're asking for a funny story right after you just said that." But
Well, that could be a lot of stories. Because one thing in this process that I found out is I found out who I was, because that's why we called it Becoming Mother Martha. And I found out that I have a really wild sense of humor that came, and I don't know, it
oh,
came from being a nurse or running for my life. I don't know. It could have been a whole lot of things. So that, one funny story, oh, honey, I can tell a whole lot of funny stories.
I know it's like you're trying to recall them. Like, man, there's so many. I
I
don't
used
even
to, I
know.
used to have a front row seat in George Wallace's show in Las Vegas, and
Okay.
when I'm in California, I have a front row seat in Jay Leno's show. But I can tell you about the first time I ever met Jay Leno.
Oh,
Let's just
let's
talk
do
about
it.
Jay.
Let's do it.
The first time I met Jay, I stopped him and I said, "Listen, Jay, you need to stop catfishing me and everyone else. Listen, I went to bed with you for years. Oh, I mean, with you on TV. And your chin was not that big. It should come with a warning. Warning, it's larger in person."
Oh my goodness. I can only tell that he received that well because as being a comedian, you understand it's not a
Oh,
personal
yes.
shot or stuff like
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I extremely enjoyed this, and I want to encourage anyone who's listening to this, who's watching this, to take a moment to go check out your work, your foundation, your books. It can only what's the word I'm looking for? It can only make you feel something that you're not feeling. How about that? Because we're going to learn more information. When the world opens up, we see what someone else sees, right? Maybe people didn't know that there were that many people over there that were orphans or something. And I know we have people local, but sometimes we need to reach out as well. So this has been so enlightening, and I appreciate everyone who's been listening, watching. This makes me feel so good. Any last parting words? What is on your mind to tell the people, Martha?
I think we've pretty much touched on it all, but I appreciate everyone that's listened, and
Yeah.
anyone that reads my book. Anytime that you buy anything, with my name on it or my face on it, a part of the proceeds goes to help the children.
There we go. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys enjoy your day. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode of Martha. Enjoy, and you have a great day. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.